What's up? It's Andy Grammer with Jag.
Hi, this is Carly Rae Jepsen, and you're listening to Jag.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Jonas hanging with Jag.
This is Heather Knox, Playboy's Miss January 2012. With the hottest Jag I've ever seen.
It's B.O.B. checking in with my homie Jag. So much swag with my homie Jag.
It's the Jag Show Podcast.
And welcome to another 5-minute-ish Friday version of the Jag Show Podcast. I'm recording this while my wife is in between conference calls. More on that later. The big news in the podcast industry this week was the annual release of Edison Research's Infinite Dial Survey, where they look at listening habits for people among radio, social media habits, streaming, and of course, podcasting. And there are some real key numbers here for takeaways. I'm going to link to the survey here in the show notes. You can check out all the slides in detail. But here are the big bullet points. 212 million Americans, that's 75% of Americans aged 12 and up, are now familiar with the term podcasting. 155 million, that's 55%, have listened to a podcast. 104 million listen monthly, 68 million listen weekly. And on average, weekly podcast listening is up to 6 hours and 39 minutes per week, at an average of 6 podcasts per week among regular podcast listeners. The bottom line, monthly podcast consumers have grown 16% year over year, going over 100 million Americans for the first time. These are all huge numbers in an industry that is only going to grow as people are really stuck at home. Again, these numbers, of course, were from before the events of the last several weeks. Okay, with apologies to Fifth Harmony, my wife and I are now working from home. And first, a disclaimer, there are a lot of people that are really hurting right now. If they're not sick, they have lost wages. They might be on the verge of losing their business. And so I am not here to make light or minimize any of that. But I thought in the face of everything going on and all of us being cooped up at home, we could all use a little bit of comic relief. So I thought I'd tell you about my wife and I and how the last week has gone for us. So last Friday at 6 o'clock, they got an email at her corporate job that everybody's going to work from home from here on out, at least until this thing is over. And if you want to get your stuff from your desk, you got to do it Monday or that's it. So Monday, we went up to her office and got her monitor and her docking station and all that fun stuff. And she actually got a chair and a desk on Amazon and set up shop, a little workspace in our kitchen. We don't have a very large house, but the kitchen is at the opposite end from my office where I take calls and edit all day. Her first observation from the week was, wow, you're really loud when you're on the phone. Shocking, I know. You know, and our routine is definitely different. It used to be because she has about a half-hour commute and I work from home. She would text me as she's leaving the office and I would start putting dinner together. Well, Monday night, we kind of got our wires crossed. Who was going to make the chicken? Long story short, there was frozen chicken, an Instant Pot, a lack of seasoning on my part, remembering to season it while the pot was pressurizing, and cooked ends of the chicken breast and raw middle. We ended up having cheese quesadillas. Also, as I do my morning routine, and I'm kind of a coffee snob. I grind my coffee beans, then I use a French press in the morning and, make my eggs and oatmeal and everything. As I'm doing this 5 feet from my wife's workstation, she looks over and says, wow, you're a real slob in the morning. Thanks, honey. So we're figuring it out. We're trying to go for a walk around lunchtime around the neighborhood just to get a little bit of fresh air when the weather's okay and just so we don't go completely stir crazy and get cabin fever as we both sit in the house and work remotely all day. And we do have at least one good laugh every day because you have to at this point. Last night she was starting to put together the chicken for dinner and I looked at her and I said, thank you for taking the lead on this project, coworker. And she looked back at me and said something that I'll leave out of this podcast because I don't want to have to mark it as explicit. So we're trying to keep things light and keep the humor going in the face of a difficult situation for everybody. But I do want to leave you today with a little bit of perspective. No doubt on the news, you've heard this soundbite, CBS and NBC both ran it, of this guy on spring break in Florida from earlier this week.
If I get corona, I get corona. At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying. We've been waiting for Miami spring break for a while. About 2 months we've had this trip planned. 2-3 months. So we're just out here having a good time.
And it's really easy to cast aspersions on those under the age of 30 who don't think they can get sick, at least until the news of the end of the week here, and chastise them all for being young and dumb and having no regard for the people around them. But I don't want you to be ageist here toward young people. I want to give you a different perspective. This is a Facebook post from Ellie Friedman, who is a senior in high school this year. She writes on Facebook in part, after hours and hours of reflection, I've come to the conclusion that my senior experiences don't really matter. Of course, I've always looked forward to helping out with graduation speeches, receiving my recognition at senior honors night, leading my last school club meeting, and dancing with my friends at prom. But in the grand scheme of things, those experiences are largely unimportant. The economy is crashing and the virus is spreading. Please do not waste your prayers on my trivial experiences. If anything, these tentative cancellations only empower me to be more mindful of and grateful for what I do have control over. I will take my extra time at home to study topics that interest me. I will reach out to my friends, virtually of course, and tell them how much their presence means to me. I will cherish my high school diploma even more because it will have one hell of a story behind it. So for the high school seniors, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to ponder everything that could have been. But I encourage you to consider how this unprecedented turn of events can be a good thing. We got this. This shared experience that we are all going through nationwide and worldwide has really caused people to show their true colors. And yes, it's easy to find stories of people misbehaving, but you'll find a lot more stories of people who've been given some valuable perspective at this time. Please stay safe, stay healthy, be responsible, and I'll talk to you next week.